probably. Okay. So now I hope I'm not getting too sort of complex and too advanced. I'm presenting you with only 3 possible alternatives today, and I'm going to keep jumping between them. So please let me know if it's proving to be a little confusing. This is alternative analysis number 2, my less preferred analysis. So I don't think this is what's happening, but we need to keep our minds open to the possibility that this is happening. Okay, and now how will we know whether this analysis might be happening as opposed to the first analysis that I showed you? That is a very important question, and let's have a look at this analysis first, and then we'll go back to the preferred analysis, and I'll answer that question. Okay, if this analysis is the analysis that is playing, then what we are seeing now is the beginning of the final 80-day cycle move into the 40-week cycle trough. Okay, and now as you can see, it is already looking very bearish because it has already experienced a very early peak. Okay, now we're going to watch the bounce out of this trough very carefully, very carefully, and we watch it for evidence of the strength of that trough. How do you measure the strength of the bounce out of the trough? Well, to some extent, it's a fairly sort of discretionary thing. Sentient Trader actually measures the speed with which price moves out of a trough, and it calls it the bounce. Very imaginative name. But so you can do it sort of mathematically, which is what Sentient Trader does, but you can do it just by feel, just by looking at it. But also, of course, you do it by looking at the FLDs and the VTLs that the price crosses as it goes. Okay. Now there is a complete roadmap laid out on this chart for us to look at, and let's take a look at the FLDs all the way down to sort of 80-day cycle strength, and we can look at some VTLs as well. No, there aren't really any VTLs, I don't think, that are going to prove of assistance to us. Okay, so there's a bit of a roadmap. You can see all these lines. These are FLDs. Okay. Now the way that price interacts with FLDs is fantastically complex, but also magnificently simple. Price basically either crosses an FLD, or it will rise up to that FLD, and it will tend to sort of move along with it. Those are basically the 2 things that price does. Okay, so we're going to be watching this move, and as you can see, price yesterday, and let's change to a median chart, because you must always use a median chart when studying price interacting with FLDs or with VTLs. Price, as you can see, yesterday had a very strong move, which we saw a moment ago using candlesticks. When you look at the median price, you can see that price came right up to that 5-day FLD, but it hasn't yet crossed it. Okay, so one of the ways in which we're going to very carefully monitor price moving out of this trough is we're going to watch it crossing those FLDs. And of course, I work with an intraday version of Sentient Trader, and so I'm watching price crossing, crossing the 1-hour cycle FLD. Because I am intrigued to see how it crosses all of the FLDs all the way down to the shortest possible time span. When we're watching price crossing this FLD, we're looking for indications that price generates pure price crosses. In other words, price should cross the FLD at roughly a 90-degree angle. Okay, it should move through with some strength, and although it might drop back after crossing the FLD, there is a clear comparison between a good price crossing an FLD and a bad one. In fact, take a look at ST Outlook. I don't remember when it was. It must have been in February. I wrote about price crossing FLDs, and I see a question from Tom, and Blair's answered it. Thank you, Blair and Tom. Yes, those are median FLDs. So we're going to be watching very carefully as price comes out of this trough. Now, if price comes out of this trough and crosses the 5-day and the 10-day perhaps, but struggles and doesn't really get any further, then we would know that in fact the trough that it's coming out of is of only 10-day magnitude. If, however, it comes out with a good deal more strength, more bounce, then we'll know the chances are that the magnitude is much greater of that trough. So let me just count the bars from that 80-day cycle trough according to this analysis. You'll see 15 bars have elapsed. So it is possible that this is a trough of a 10-day or 20-day magnitude according to this analysis. And as we watch price unfold, we'll be able to answer that question. Okay, this is the second analysis. I mentioned that I had 3, and for the sake of completeness, I'm going to show you the third one. And then we'll start sort of wrapping things up and talking about how we'll know which one is really happening. Here's the third analysis. How does this analysis differ from the other two? It differs in only one way. Okay, the 20-week cycle is also on the 30th of January, which I believe is the best placement for it. The only way in which the analysis differs is that the 40-day cycle trough has been positioned here on the 21st of May. Okay. It is possible that that trough on the 21st of May is a trough of only 40-day magnitude, which means that the trough that formed on Monday is most likely of only 20-day magnitude. Okay. So, although I presented you with 3 analyses, there are potentially only 2 things that are happening now. Okay, the one thing that might be happening is the price is rising out of a 20-day magnitude trough. Okay, which would mean that either this analysis or analysis number 2 is in play. Okay, there is analysis number 2. Okay, is it? I've gone on to the wrong chart. There we go. Sorry, that's analysis number 2. Okay, so if the price is only rising out of a 20-day magnitude trough right now, then either analysis number 2 or analysis number 3 are at play. Okay, if the trough, the only other thing that could be happening is the price is coming out of a 40-week magnitude trough, okay, which is the moment that we've been waiting for. Okay, now I think the chances are very high that in fact price is bouncing round about now out of that 40-week cycle trough. Okay, I think we need to be on a hot standby for it. John says he suspects May 21 was a 5-week low, so the 40-week low. I originally thought it was May 9th, but the bounce was quite weak. Okay, so John is indicating that he is. There we go. I'm a little confused about all my charts. There we go. This chart here. So this is the preferred analysis for what John thinks is happening. In other words, that the 40-day cycle formed a trough on the 21st of May. Okay, and it's very important, I believe, as a Hurst analyst, that one needs to keep an open mind to what the options are. There are always options, and the difference between the options is often a matter of personal opinion. But as the bounce out of this current trough unfolds, we will be able to answer that question very, very soon. Okay, so as John mentions, it's very possible that the trough on the 21st of May was a trough of 40-day magnitude, which means that the trough that formed on Monday was probably of only 20-day magnitude. It is also possible that the trough, the 40-day trough, in fact occurred on. Let me go to that chart, that the 40-day trough in fact occurred on the 9th of May. But as John mentions in his comment in the chat window, the bounce out of the 9th of May was very, very small. Let's take a look at that. Here is the bounce out of that 40-day cycle trough. So here's the trough on the 9th of May. The bounce out of that trough was tiny, as you can see. It was that tiny little move, which means that, as John points out, there is very good reason to think that this was not a trough of the 40-day cycle, and that the trough of the 40-day cycle, in fact, occurred over here on the 21st of May. Okay. So what we need to do is we need to be, I believe, at times like this, when the market is approaching a major turn, we need to be very careful. We need to watch it very, very carefully. As I've been mentioning in FT Outlooks, the market, as it approaches major turns, often does sort of fake moves. It does sudden bursts, and then it drops away again. And so what we need to do is we need to be watching very carefully so that we can determine which trough is forming right now. I'd like to point out two additional reasons, which aren't Hurst reasons. They are well, they are Hurst reasons, but they're more sort of personal reasons why I believe that the 40-week cycle trough might be occurring now rather than later. Okay, the first reason is, and let me just clean up this chart. Here we're looking at the alternate analysis. This is the alternate analysis that John has indicated he prefers. Okay. I have noticed, and you can take this or leave this, but I have noticed very often in working with Sentient Trader, and I am, if not the most experienced Sentient Trader user, I'm certainly the person who's been using it the longest. I've noticed that when there is a trough, okay, such as this over here, 40-day cycle trough, in an analysis, and then there's a trough missing. Do you see that trough missing over there? That's the 80-day cycle trough. It's not missing, but it's expected later, okay? And then right above, very, very close to that, then the longer cycle troughs are positioned as they are here, and I'll draw the arrows there for the 40-week and for the 20-week. When a pattern like that happens in the analysis, I have there's a very obvious reason for it. The reason for it is because the shorter cycle that has been formed here has been stretched a little bit. It's a long cycle, okay? So it's pushing out the shorter cycles. So you end up getting a skew nest of lows like that. Now that does not always mean that this analysis is wrong by any means. However, I have noticed that often, when I see that happening on the chart, very, very often, in fact, the shorter cycle should not be positioned there, but should be positioned somewhere further back, so that we end up with the analysis forming a slightly different pattern, as is indicated